Hello, my wonderful little collections of bones. It's me, Glass Lotuses, your friendly and mildly eerie digital artist, writer, and cat lover. How are you doing tonight? I hope your week has been pleasant. Continuing on to the next primary god in the pantheon for the right hand of death, today I want to talk about Contra, the god of chaos. If you haven't already watched the video before this one, talking about AS9, the god of order, that is perfectly fine. They don't necessarily need to be watched in a particular order, but they will relate mildly to each other. Now, before we begin, this is your reminder to make sure your phone is charged, set any alarms you need to, and get settled in, and we shall begin. Contra is the god of chaos in our pantheon, and the second of the two original gods. He oversees chaos, entropy, destruction, and non-cyclical elements. As a god, he oversees balancing out order in his universe, and thus is the source of free will. Gods, such as those of fire, air, love, and mercy, are under his rule and act to make the world a little less predictable place. Just like AS9, Contra lived a mortal life before becoming a god. In his mortal life, he fell in love with a newcomer to his town, a beautiful woman who was not quite what she appeared. In truth, she was a weaver who disguised herself as one of his kind. Weavers are beings made out of tangled bits of the fabric of reality. They are born outside of universes when the fabric ripples and tangles randomly, and they die when their tangles unwind. Their level of power and complexity depends on how complicated of a knot was formed, and they can grow in strength by consuming other tangled or woven fabric to add to themselves. People in the town Contra lived in started going missing, and no one could quite figure out why. Most of those who vanished were men and children. Contra never suspected the woman who he had begun to court was the cause. He didn't realize the person he loved was the reason that those around him were vanishing, and he didn't know that he was a cover to throw the rumors off of her. He vouched for her. She was innocent. She was one of them. There was clearly something else going on. But it all unwound eventually. When his people discovered what she truly was, they tried to kill her, and Contra vainly and foolishly tried to protect her. His own people turned on him, angry that he would protect the creature that had been eating them. In the end, the weaver had actually come to care for him, but she could not save him as he lay dying. She could, however, give him immortality as a god. The weaver taught him how to create complex, wonderful things, but he found he had more of a knack for destruction. He learned to create worlds, but also to destroy them. He struggled to figure out how to properly balance worlds, and anytime he failed and his creations began to slip, the weaver would devour the world and reset the board. Their interests eventually diverged, and his emotions over what had happened lingered and turned sour with time. As he created world after world, he became adept at the process of setup, but could never quite get everything right on his own. Frustrated, angry, and sad, Contra dedicated time in secret to understand how to escape a weaver's system, knowing full well that he could also be consumed if she saw fit to do so. He was locked in an eternal dance in which he could not stumble. He must disappear entirely all at once, or else learn what it felt like to become nothing. I mentioned in the past that before I started working on the right hand of death, I had been working on a few separate stories, one of which was Fogtown, which is where the main characters of Road had come from. In the case of the Divine Realm, however, I had a different story I was working on about a mortal woman who was given as a sacrifice to the god of death. It was primarily a romance, but also focused on the politics of the Divine Realm, as the gods all watched over the mortal realm she had come from. So it was essentially a mortal's perspective on the actions of a pantheon of flawed gods. I don't think I had gotten to writing Contra in that story yet, but it's that story from which the gods for this story were formed, and it was that storyline that formed the basis of the collapse of the gods in the current story. Essentially, it was a very early prequel. In that story, the god of chaos was friends with the god of death, so he did come up, but I don't recall having a clear design for him at the point that I merged all the stories. I wasn't entirely sure where I wanted to take Contra's design when I first planned his existence. Most of my characters have some guiding ideas or inspirations, but Contra was pretty blank. I had this idea of him with 5 arms because odd-numbered limbs is an atypical body plan for most organisms, but my initial sketches looked really weird and I did not like them. As I was playing around in Design Doll, I duplicated a model several times and just started posing the arms and ended up with a 6-armed character instead. To be fair, drawing someone with 6 arms is honestly difficult. It's chaotic in its own way. Figuring out what to do with all the hands is an exercise in posing every time. I also wanted to indicate which arms were in pairs together, so one pair of his arms have metal bands at the upper arm, one pair has bracelets and short green nails, and the last pair has more of a brace type thing and long golden nails. Beyond that, I had no direction. I gave him some piercings because I thought they would look neat. I gave him some little side bangs longer than the rest of his hair. I think because I was playing Legend of Zelda at the time, and I liked Link's hair, but I don't entirely remember for sure. Usually my designs have a lot more logic to them, but Contra was kind of just all over the place. Kind of fitting, I suppose, for the god of chaos. As for the ears, I just wanted something abnormal. I like pointed ears and lean towards them typically, and these ears took that and kind of added more points. I originally gave him a tail, but in future iterations I dropped it, partially because I forgot it and partially because I didn't like it. The green skin on his ears, hands, and face was a random design choice. I just wanted him to be different than just, a typical skin tone, and green goes well with gold. I also made his eyes entirely green here with no iris or pupil, similar to how Tiefling and Aasimar in D&D should typically have full-colored eyes. No one really follows that though, and I figured out later on why. It's because you can't really tell where they're looking and it's really annoying to draw. So later iterations of him, I switched to him actually having irises and just having green sclera as well. The little people he's creating here are some of the humanoid groups within the world of the story. You have humans, fairies, a cat who represents people within the Calcian family really, but didn't represent anything at the time specifically, and then elves at the bottom. This was my first drawing that really got me going on TikTok, and without it, I probably wouldn't be here creating as much content as I am now, and I probably wouldn't have written or drawn nearly as much over the past 3 years. So I have a major soft spot for this drawing and for Contra. Anyway, I hope you like my little guy, and if you have any comments, questions, or requests, please put them in the comments below. I try to respond to everybody as best I can. Thank you for sticking around and listening to my babbling. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're interested in learning more about this story, the world, and the characters within it, please like and subscribe. Have a nice night.